On my 15th wedding anniversary, my husband and sister handed me a stack of papers that would erase my entire existence. The bakery chain I built from a single food truck, the house I designed room by room, my savings account emptied to the last cent. My sister smiled as she slid closer to my husband, her hand resting on his thigh. "You should have seen this coming," she whispered. I signed every document without a single tear falling. 18 days later, my phone had 6-7 missed calls from numbers I no longer answered. They thought they buried me. They forgot I knew where all the bodies were hidden. The air conditioning vent in our master bedroom closet connected directly to my husband's home office. I discovered this 3 months ago when I heard him laughing at something that definitely wasn't a work call. Since then, I had learned to position myself against the wall of hanging dresses, pressing my ear to the cold metal grate while my world slowly collapsed around me. The anniversary dinner tomorrow is perfect timing. My sister's voice drifted up through the vent, unmistakable despite the metallic distortion. She'll be emotional, probably drinking. Easy to convince her to sign. My husband's response came quick and confident. The lawyer said everything's airtight. As long as she signs the business transfer thinking it's an anniversary gift or some kind of joint venture document, we're protected. She won't read the fine print. She never does with family. I remained perfectly still, my bare feet cold against the closet floor, listening to my husband and my younger sister plan my financial assassination. Before I go further, I want to thank you for being here. If you believe that family betrayal deserves consequences, please subscribe. It's free and helps others find these stories. Now, let me tell you what I discovered next. "What about her credit cards?" my sister asked. I heard ice clinking in a glass. She was drinking my expensive bourbon, the one I saved for special occasions, already handled. I added myself as an authorized user 6 months ago, then gradually shifted the primary holder status. As of last week, she's technically the secondary user on her own accounts. One phone call after she signs, and her access gets revoked. And Megan? My sister's voice dropped. Does she know everything? Megan, my husband's daughter from his first marriage, the 23-year-old I had raised since she was 8, who called me mom until she turned 18 and decided her biological mother's memory deserved more respect. Megan's been helping with the paperwork, my husband said. She found some discrepancies in the bakery's books that'll help justify the transfer if anyone questions it later. Nothing illegal, just enough to suggest mismanagement. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep silent. My stepdaughter, who I had taught to ride a bicycle, who I had held through her first heartbreak, who I had secretly paid for her college apartment when she claimed she had a scholarship, that same girl was now fabricating evidence against me. Victoria's already looking at houses. My sister's voice carried a smugness that made my stomach turn. Victoria Chen, my husband's business partner and apparently much more. She found a place in Scottsdale. 4 bedrooms, pool, mountain views. Derek wants to move fast once Rachel's out. Victoria Chen. The name I'd heard whispered in phone calls for months. The woman my husband claimed was just a colleague every time I asked about the late nights. I backed away from the vent, my movement careful and silent on the carpet I had chosen specifically for its plush softness. My decorating choices were now helping me spy on my own destruction. Standing in the closet surrounded by clothes I had bought, in a house I had designed, listening to people I loved plot my erasure, something shifted inside me. The grief I expected didn't come. Instead, I felt a cold clarity settling over me like morning frost. I walked to my jewelry box and removed the flash drive hidden beneath my grandmother's pearls. For 3 months, I had been copying files. Bank statements, emails, text messages, audio recordings. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered sat on this tiny device, waiting for the right moment. Tomorrow, they planned to serve me papers at what I was supposed to believe was our anniversary celebration. Tomorrow, they expected me to cry, to beg, to sign whatever they put in front of me out of shock and confusion. Tomorrow, I would give them exactly what they expected. The morning of my anniversary arrived with my husband bringing breakfast in bed. Eggs Benedict, fresh orange juice, and a single red rose. His smile didn't reach his eyes, but I pretended not to notice. 15 years, he said, setting the tray across my lap. I can't believe it's been that long. I couldn't either. 15 years of building something together, or so I had thought. 15 years of lies, apparently. I have something special planned for tonight, he continued. Dinner at the house. Just family. The word family hit differently now. I nodded, maintaining the performance I'd been perfecting for months. That sounds perfect, Derek. I wouldn't want it any other way. He kissed my forehead with lips that had kissed Victoria Chen, that had probably kissed my sister too. I ate the eggs he'd made, wondering if he felt any guilt at all. The day passed in preparation. I went to the bakery, checking on operations as usual. My flagship location in downtown Phoenix was busy with the Saturday morning rush. The smell of fresh bread and brewing coffee filled the air as I walked through the kitchen. Carlos, my head baker who'd been with me since the food truck days, caught my arm as I passed. "Mrs. Rachel, something's wrong with the accounts. I tried to order flour for next week, and the card got declined." First time ever. I patted his shoulder. "I'll handle it, Carlos. Just document everything, okay? Every declined transaction, every strange charge." He looked confused but nodded. He didn't understand that the declined cards were just the beginning. At my second location in Tempe, I found similar problems. The manager reported that their vendor payments had been rerouted to a different account. The third location in Scottsdale had received eviction notices despite our lease running another 4 years. My sister's handiwork, no doubt. She worked in commercial real estate and had access to exactly the kind of connections needed to forge documents. I spent the afternoon visiting each of my 4 bakery locations, quietly speaking with employees, collecting documentation, ensuring that my most trusted staff understood something was happening without explaining exactly what. By 5 o'clock, I had a folder full of evidence and a heart full of cold determination. The house was transformed when I returned. Candles everywhere, white roses in crystal vases, soft music playing through speakers my husband had insisted we install last year. The dining room table was set with our wedding china. Derek stood at the kitchen island, pouring champagne. My sister Emily sat on the living room couch, wearing a dress I recognized from my own closet. Megan perched on the arm of a chair, her phone in her hand, recording. They formed a triangle around me as I entered. My husband at one point, my sister at another, my stepdaughter completing the shape. I stood in the center, surrounded. "Happy anniversary, Rachel." Derek's voice was warm, rehearsed. He handed me champagne. 15 years deserves a proper celebration. We moved to the dining room, where a thick manila folder sat at my place setting. I noticed it immediately but pretended not to, sipping champagne and complimenting the flower arrangements. Dinner was served by a catering company I didn't recognize. My husband must have paid cash, avoiding our usual vendors who would have mentioned the unusual order. We ate in near silence, the tension building with every course. Finally, as dessert plates were cleared, my husband nodded at my sister. Some signal I wasn't meant to see. "Rachel, we need to discuss some things." Derek's tone shifted, becoming the business voice he used with difficult clients. "About our future." I set down my champagne glass, watching them watch me. Emily leaned forward. "We've been concerned about you, sis. The stress of running the bakery, the long hours. Derek and I have talked, and we think it's time for some changes." "Changes?" I kept my voice neutral, curious. Megan finally spoke, her phone still recording. Rachel, we just want what's best for everyone. The business documents need updating anyway. This makes everything cleaner." Derek slid the manila folder toward me. "These are transfer papers for the bakery chain. I'll take over as primary owner, but you'll still have a role. Advisor or something. And these," he pulled out a separate stack, "are dissolution papers. Our marriage has run its course, Rachel. We both know that." My sister's hand found Derek's arm, no longer hiding their connection. "I know this is hard to hear, but I've loved Derek for years. We fought against it, we really did. But some things are meant to be." I looked at the papers, then at the 3 faces watching me with varying degrees of anticipation and false concern. Megan's camera captured every moment. "The house?" I asked quietly. "In Derek's name from the start," Emily answered. "You signed a prenup, remember? The house was always his if you divorced." I did remember signing something, though my lawyer at the time had assured me it was standard. Apparently, standard had a different meaning than I understood. "My savings?" Derek shifted uncomfortably. "Joint accounts. We'll divide them fairly during the divorce proceedings. But with the state of the bakery's finances lately, there might not be much left." The fabricated financial problems Megan had created. The declined cards, the rerouted payments. All designed to make my business look like it was failing, to justify taking it from me. I reached for the pen on the table. A Mont Blanc, one I had given Derek for our 10th anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. "You're not going to say anything?" Emily looked disappointed, perhaps hoping for tears or screaming. I smiled. A real smile, the kind that comes from knowing something they don't. What would be the point? I signed the first document with careful, clear handwriting. "You've clearly thought this through." My signature crossed the second page, then the third. Derek's eyes widened slightly. He'd expected resistance. "That's it?" Megan lowered her phone. "You're just going to sign everything?" I continued signing. The bakery transfer, the divorce papers, the property releases. Page after page of my life signed away with the same steady hand that had signed our wedding certificate 15 years ago. "You really are pathetic." Emily's mask finally slipped. "I thought you'd at least fight." No wonder Derek came to me. She was always too trusting. Derek's voice held something close to pity. "It's why the business struggled." No instinct for people's true nature. I signed the final document and set down the pen. Standing from the table, I smoothed my dress and picked up my purse from the sideboard. "Thank you for a lovely anniversary dinner," I said, my voice steady. "This makes everything much simpler." I walked out the front door without looking back. Behind me, I heard confused whispers. That wasn't how the script was supposed to go. My car started on the first try. The Honda they considered beneath them, the one practical vehicle I'd insisted on keeping despite Derek's push for luxury leases. As I pulled out of the driveway, I allowed myself one glance in the rearview mirror. They stood in the doorway, 3 people who thought they'd won. They had no idea that war had just begun. The first week after my anniversary ambush was calculated chaos. They assumed I would spiral, become emotional, maybe contest the signatures. Instead, I disappeared. I checked into a small hotel in Mesa under my maiden name, paying cash. My personal phone went into a drawer, replaced by a prepaid device with a new number. For 7 days, I was a ghost, but I wasn't inactive. The flash drive I'd been building for 3 months contained everything. Every text between Derek and Victoria Chen about their 5-year affair. Every email between my husband and sister discussing how to handle me. Audio recordings of their planning sessions, captured through the air conditioning vent and backed up to 3 separate cloud servers. I also had something they didn't know existed. 3 years ago, I hired a forensic accountant named Margaret Okonkwo to review our finances after some inconsistencies appeared. What she found was startling, but I wasn't ready to act on it then. Now, her report became my weapon. Derek had been siphoning money from our joint accounts into a separate investment fund for nearly a decade. Over $800,000, supposedly lost to bad investments, actually sat in an account linked to Victoria Chen's consulting firm. My sister Emily had been accepting kickbacks from commercial property deals she facilitated using my bakery locations as leverage. Megan had been padding her college expenses and pocketing the difference. On day 3, I met with James Ashford, a corporate attorney recommended by Margaret. His office overlooked downtown Phoenix, all glass and steel confidence. "Everything they made you sign is voidable," he said after reviewing my documentation. "The business transfer especially. You can prove coercion, fabricated evidence, and financial manipulation. But here's the better approach." He spread out papers on his desk. "Don't void anything. Let them think they won. Meanwhile, we file separate actions. Forensic accounting investigation into the siphoned funds. Fraud charges related to the forged eviction notices at your bakery locations. And this," he tapped a thick folder. "Evidence of Victoria Chen's involvement in embezzlement from her previous employer. Your husband is in business with a federal target." My heart beat faster, but I kept my face calm. "What do you recommend?" "We contact the FBI. Let them investigate Victoria Chen, which will naturally pull your husband into the investigation. Your sister's real estate fraud stands alone, separate charges. And Megan," he paused, "her falsification of business records is a felony. But she's young. A cooperating witness deal might be appropriate." I thought about Megan, the girl I'd raised, who had betrayed me completely. Part of me wanted her to face full consequences. Another part remembered teaching her to make her first pie crust. her small hands covered in flour. "Let's see how things develop," I said finally. Day 5 brought the first crack in their confidence. I know because Maria, my assistant manager at the flagship bakery, called me. "Mrs. Rachel, your husband came in today with papers saying he owns the business now. But there's a problem." Her voice was quiet, conspiratorial. Health department showed up an hour later. They found violations that weren't there yesterday. Like someone planted evidence. Someone had. My sister, probably, trying to build a case that the bakery was failing and the transfer was justified. "Document everything, Maria. Photos, witness statements, and if anyone asks, you haven't heard from me." "Mrs. Rachel? I know something bad happened. We all do. You've been good to us for 12 years. Whatever you need. Loyalty." The one thing Derek and Emily hadn't accounted for. By day 7, I was ready to emerge. But first, I made one more call. "Rebecca Torres speaking." The voice was crisp, professional. "Rebecca, it's Rachel. I need to talk to you about a partnership." Rebecca Torres ran Torres Commercial Bakeries, my biggest competitor and occasional collaborator. We'd known each other for years, respecting each other across the battlefield of Phoenix's bakery scene. "Rachel, I heard rumors something was happening with your business. Hostile takeover of some kind? Something like that. I have a proposition. My 4 locations, my recipes, my client relationships, all at risk because of family drama. I need someone to hold certain assets temporarily, keep employees paid, maintain operations while I sort out legal issues." Silence on the line. Then, "And what do I get?" "Exclusive access to my sourdough starter. The one I've been cultivating for 15 years, the one you've tried to buy 6 times. A longer pause. "I'm listening." Within 2 days, Rebecca Torres and I had signed a partnership agreement that put my bakery operations under her umbrella. My staff kept their jobs, my vendors got paid, and my recipes remained protected. Derek had signed papers transferring ownership to himself, but the actual assets had already been moved. He owned an empty shell. The first panicked call came on day 18. "Rachel, where are you? What did you do?" Derek's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "I went to the flagship location and they said they don't work for me." Something about a prior arrangement? I was in my new office, a small space Rebecca had provided in her company headquarters. Through the window, I could see the city I had fed for over a decade. "I don't know what you're talking about, Derek. I signed everything you wanted. The bank accounts are frozen. Something about a federal investigation? And Victoria. She's not returning my calls. Her office says she's on administrative leave." Poor Derek. His carefully constructed plan was crumbling, and he had no idea I was the one pulling the threads. "That sounds stressful. Maybe you should talk to a lawyer." "Rachel, I swear to God. If you're behind this, I'll destroy what's left of your reputation. I'll make sure everyone knows you signed away your business because you couldn't handle competition. That you abandoned your marriage because you were jealous of your own sister. Goodbye, Derek." I hung up and checked my call log. 43 missed calls in the past week. Derek, Emily, Megan, numbers I didn't recognize. Each voicemail more desperate than the last. Emily's message from yesterday stood out. "Rach, we need to talk. Something's wrong with my real estate license. They're claiming irregularities in deals I did years ago. Derek thinks it might be connected to something with his business partner. Please call me. We're family. We can figure this out. We're family." The words that used to mean everything now meant nothing at all. The FBI raid on Victoria Chen's consulting firm made the evening news exactly 3 weeks after my anniversary ambush. I watched from my new apartment, a modest 1-bedroom in Tempe that I'd rented under my maiden name. The reporters stood outside a glass office building while agents carried boxes to waiting vehicles. "Federal investigators descended on Chen Consulting this morning," the anchor announced, executing warrants related to alleged embezzlement and money laundering. Sources indicate the investigation may extend to several business partners and associates. The camera caught Victoria Chen being escorted out in handcuffs, her designer suit rumpled, her face a mask of shock. Behind her, I spotted Derek being questioned by an agent near the parking garage. My phone buzzed. James Ashford. Turn to channel 10. Different angle. I switched channels to find coverage of a separate scene. My sister Emily being led from her real estate office, arms behind her back. The crawl at the bottom read local realtor arrested in connection with commercial fraud investigation. The charges against her are separate from Victoria Chen, James explained. Your documentation of the forged eviction notices and kickback schemes was enough for independent charges. She's not connected to the federal case, so she doesn't get the publicity protection of that investigation. What about Megan? Cooperating witness, as we discussed. In exchange for full testimony about her father's involvement in the scheme against you, charges will be reduced. Community service, probably. She's young, no prior record, clearly manipulated by her father. I felt something complicated about that. Relief that she wouldn't face prison, anger that she got away so easily, sadness for the relationship we'd lost. And Derek? Not arrested yet. But the investigation into Victoria Chen has revealed his involvement in several questionable transfers. The money he siphoned from your joint accounts went through her firm. That makes him potentially liable for whatever she did with it. I ended the call and watched the news coverage until my eyes burned. 3 weeks ago, these people had surrounded me in my own home and tried to erase my existence. Now, they were watching their lives collapse in real time. The bakery partnership with Rebecca Torres flourished beyond our expectations. My recipes, her infrastructure, combined to create something better than either of us had alone. Within 2 months, we had expanded to 6 locations. Within 4, we were negotiating a deal with a regional grocery chain. Maria, my loyal manager, became operations director for the new partnership. Carlos got the title of head baker, the recognition he'd deserved for years. Every employee who'd stayed faithful during the transition received raises and profit-sharing options. Derek's arrest came 4 months after my anniversary dinner. The charges were money laundering and conspiracy, tied to Victoria Chen's federal case. I learned about it through the news, watching federal agents escort him from the house I had designed. The house I no longer wanted. Emily received 18 months in federal prison for real estate fraud. Her license was permanently revoked. Her husband, who I'd always liked, filed for divorce while she was awaiting trial. Their children went to live with his parents. Victoria Chen faced the longest sentence. 23 years for embezzlement, money laundering, and tax evasion. The prosecutor mentioned that her crimes spanned nearly a decade and multiple victims. My husband was just one of many people she had manipulated. Megan's cooperation kept her out of prison, but the cost was different. Her testimony against her father destroyed whatever relationship they had. She called me once, about 6 months after everything ended. I don't expect you to forgive me. Her voice was small, younger than her 23 years. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. Dad made it seem like we were just protecting the family business from bad decisions. I didn't understand what we were really doing until it was too late. I listened without responding for a long moment. I appreciate you telling me that, Megan. Rachel, I know I have no right to ask, but I don't have anywhere to go. Mom's side of the family won't talk to me since the trial. Dad's in prison. I've been staying with friends, but that can't last forever. The girl I had raised was asking me for help after helping to destroy me. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let her experience the abandonment she had willingly participated in creating. But I remembered her at 8 years old, crying because her mother had died and her father didn't know how to comfort her. I remembered teaching her to bake, watching her face light up when her first cake came out of the oven perfect. I remembered loving her, despite everything. I have a friend who runs a cafe in Flagstaff. I heard myself say. She's looking for someone to train. Room and board included. While you learn. It's hard work, early mornings, but it's a chance to start over. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Why? Her voice cracked. After everything I did? Because I remember who you were before your father twisted you into something else. Because I'm trying to build something new, and part of that is not carrying hatred into my future. But Megan, this is the last time. If you betray this chance, there won't be another. She took the job in Flagstaff. Last I heard, she was doing well. We don't talk often, but occasionally she sends pictures of pastries she's learning to make. Small olive branches across the distance. The letter from Derek arrived 8 months after his conviction. Federal prison stationery. His once confident handwriting now cramped and small. Rachel, I need help with commissary funds. The investigation took everything. Victoria's lawyers are trying to blame me for the whole scheme. My public defender says if I have character witnesses, it might help with the appeal. He went on for 2 pages, mixing justifications with requests. He never once apologized. He never acknowledged what he'd done to me. In his mind, apparently, he was still the victim. I filed the letter in a folder I'd labeled consequences and never responded. Ellie wrote too, from her minimum security facility. Her letters were more apologetic, filled with the kind of regret that might have moved me years ago. I was jealous of everything you had, she admitted in one. The business, the marriage, even the way people respected you. I thought taking it would make me feel better. It didn't. I didn't respond to her either. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning, 1 year after my anniversary ambush. Rebecca Torres stood in my office doorway, holding an envelope with my name written in elegant calligraphy. This came to the main office, she said. Return address is the Phoenix Business Association. Inside, I found an invitation to their annual leadership gala. Not as a guest, but as an honoree. Rachel Martinez, recognized for entrepreneurial resilience and community partnership in the Phoenix culinary industry. I stared at the words for a long time. A year ago, I had signed away everything I'd built, walked out of my own house with nothing but my car keys and determination. Now, I was being honored for how I'd risen from those ashes. The gala was held at a downtown hotel ballroom. I wore a dress I'd bought with my own money, jewelry that had never been in Derek's house, and walked the red carpet with Rebecca by my side. During the ceremony, they played a video about my journey, the food truck origins, the expansion, the personal challenges that had temporarily disrupted operations, and the partnership with Torres commercial bakeries that had turned potential disaster into unprecedented success. What makes Rachel Martinez special, Rebecca said from the podium, is not just her talent for creating food that brings people together. It's her understanding that betrayal doesn't have to be an ending. When the people closest to her tried to take everything she'd built, she didn't fight them directly. She simply stepped aside and let their own greed destroy them, while she built something better from what remained. The applause was warm and genuine. But what struck me most was a face in the crowd. An older woman I recognized from my early food truck days. Mrs. Henderson, one of my first regular customers. She found me after the ceremony, tears in her eyes. I watched what happened to you, she said. That night at your house, I saw it all through my window. I wanted to do something, but I didn't know how to help. You're here now, I said, and that was enough. The morning after the gala, I stood at the window of my apartment watching the sunrise. The city stretched out below me, the same city I had fed for 15 years through good times and bad. Somewhere out there, Derek was serving year 2 of a 5-year sentence. Emily was counting down months until parole. Victoria Chen was beginning what would be the rest of her life behind bars. I thought about what Rebecca had said. That I had let their greed destroy them while I built something better. It was true, but not quite complete. What I had learned in that year was something simpler. The best revenge isn't destruction. It isn't even watching your enemies fall. The best revenge is waking up every morning in a life you chose, surrounded by people who earned your trust, doing work that matters. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Grocery chain contract just got final approval. We're going statewide. I smiled, a real smile, and started my day. They had given me divorce papers on my 15th anniversary. They had laughed at my pain and called me pathetic. They had expected me to crumble, to become a cautionary tale about trusting the wrong people. Instead, I became the woman who rose. If this story had you holding your breath, please hit that like button. My favorite moment was when Rachel walked out of that anniversary dinner with perfect calm, knowing exactly what was coming next. What was your most satisfying moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more stories like this. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.